of the annual town meeting tonight. Article 56, demolition of residential buildings. We're close.
That's good. Well, it's a good place to grow up. It hasn't changed dramatically.
No sock time.
I'm advised by the town clerk that we do have a quorum, so I'm going to declare a quorum present, call this meeting to order. Just a couple of very quick announcements. We're on Article 56 of the annual town meeting. When we get through with the annual town meeting, we will go to the special town meeting, which is scheduled for 8 o'clock. I can't start the special town meeting because it was noticed for 8 prior to 8. So my plan is that we'll kind of segue right after the herring fisheries on Article 65, and then hopefully it'll be right about 8 o'clock, and we'll get started on the other one. That's just a 4-article special town meeting warrant, and we should be able to make light work of that. So I think once we get going here, we'll be able to get you in and out of here in fairly quick order. I do want to recognize Selectman Peter Hughes and Selectman Linda Cebula, who are going to make some presentations this evening just before we get started. Who's going first? Okay, Mr. Hughes, we'll start.
Good evening and thank you. It's one of the distinct honors and privileges of being a member of the Board of Selectmen that you get to review applications for what we call the Harwich Hall of Fame. So if you walk outside here and go down the hall in the direction of the center of this building, you'll notice a number of plaques and pictures on the wall with distinguished individuals who have served this town very well. So this year we have 2 inductees, if you will, and I would ask Linda Cebula to do the first one for us. Linda?
Town of Harwich Hall of Fame, Hannah Small Stokes, 1820-1906, inducted May 3rd, 2016. This remarkable woman, though tiny in stature, had the heart to overcome tragedies and the vision to provide for her community in the wake of the recession that followed upon Civil War inflation. The daughter of South Harwich farmers, Hannah was born in 1820. 20 years later, she married a Dennis sea captain, Elijah Stokes. Their first child survived only months. Their second was 4 when her father left on what he intended to be his last sea voyage. Stokes was lost with his ship and all hands off the coast of Virginia. Hannah shortly after gave birth to their son. Left with 2 children to support, the young widow was entitled by law to only 1/3 of her spouse's estates. And it's a good thing we changed that. Her father, 2/3 of her house was put to auction. Her father, with the tacit support of neighbors, made the only bid and gifted the property to her. Hannah tried to obtain temporary teaching positions in the district schools and depended on what she could reap from operating a scent shop in her home. The Civil War was to provide a more secure means of livelihood. Wartime shortages had promoted purchase of ready-made clothing, and Hannah saw the opportunities. With money from her father's estate, Hannah built and equipped an overall and shirt factory just east of her home. At its zenith, this factory had 100 steam-powered sewing machines and employed about 200 workers. Since the machines could only stitch in straight lines, articles were taken to eager women in town to add buttonholes and finish seams. These piecemeal payments tided many a family over rust spots as men lost their jobs at sea. Hannah died of heart failure in 1906. Her legacy of overcoming obstacles and contributing to the community continues to set an inspiring example.
Our next inductee, David R. Scannell, 1949-2015, inducted this 3rd day of May 2016. In November of 2015, the community lost an icon of the Harwich Town Hall, David R. Scannell. A lifelong resident, Dave was loyal and dedicated in his 34 years of service and was a senior member of Town Hall. In his role as the assessing director, he was known for his love of this community and his genuine caring for all taxpayers. Dave especially took great pleasure in assisting the town's most vulnerable seniors and sought out avenues to assist them above and beyond. His caring for the community and its residents was paramount in all that he did. Dave maintained the integrity of the office, which was a lightship to his peers and was highly regarded by his peers across Cape Cod for his kindness and wisdom as the Dean of Cape Assessors. A true gentleman and dear friend, Dave's presence will be missed by those who had the good fortune to have known him. This is Dave Scanlon.
Thank you, Mr. Hughes. Tonight, the articles in the remainder of the annual town warrant that I will not read in their entirety are Article 58. That's departmental revolving funds authorization, and there's a whole chart there, so if you have a particular interest in that, you might want to look ahead. And I think that's the only one left in the annual warrant. The others seem to be of such a length that there'll be no problem in reading those in as we go along. So we're on Article 56. See if the town will vote to enact a general bylaw as follows: demolition of residential buildings. No town fund shall be appropriated or otherwise made available through a grant agreement with a private party or public entity for an affordable housing project for the Judah Chase House and/or barn located at 97 Route 28 in West Harwich, unless the Board of Selectmen first enters into an agreement which prohibits the grant recipient from demolishing any building or subdividing the property. Furthermore, no such fund shall be made available to a private or public affordable housing entity for a project that will in any way jeopardize, compromise, or destroy the historic fabric of any building or structure on the site, nor compromise, divide, or partition the land on which they stand, or to act fully thereon. Do I have a positive motion on this article? Hearing none, Mr. DeCosta.
I move this article be indefinitely postponed.
It's a moved and second that Article 56 be indefinitely postponed. Is there any debate? Hearing none, I'll put the matter to a vote. All those in favor of indefinite postponement so signify by saying aye. Aye. And those opposed by saying no. The article is indefinitely postponed. Article 57. See if the town will vote to dedicate and designate a parcel of land containing 2.25 acres, more or less, located at 276 Queen Anne Road, containing 2.25 acres, shown on Assessors Map 69 as Parcel M1, and being a portion of the premise acquired by the town pursuant to an order of taking recorded in the Barnstable County Registry of Deeds in Book 11666, pages 103 to 105, for cemetery purposes, including, without limitation, for the development of a pet crematory and a pet cemetery, with the cemetery commissioners having care, custody, management, and control of said property, and to act fully thereon. Mr. DeCosta.
I move that this article be accepted and adopted as printed in the warrant.
The motion on Article 57 is accept and adopt as printed in the warrant. Any debate? Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Jonas Robinson from East Harwich. I'm a pet owner, and I've lost...
You got to
Sorry.
speak right into that. It's Mr. Jonas Robinson from East Harwich.
Thank
Mr.
you.
Robinson.
I'm a pet owner, and I've lost pets and mourned their passing, and I understand the explanation of why a pet cemetery might be required, but I don't think my town government should be in the pet cemetery business. If there is such a need for it, it should be met by private business or nonprofit organizations. Thank you.
Any further debate?
Hi, I'm Suzanne Martell, and I live
Yes. Hi, Cynthia.
I live within half a mile of that property, and there's been no public, none of us have been known that this was happening. I think if a pet crematory is going to be built, I have no problem with a cemetery and spreading ashes, but a crematory is extremely regulated. It's not, there's a lot of toxic things that are put into the air. It's heavily, heavily regulated. So it's not going to be something that's not going to cost this town a lot of money. And I do agree that we're not in the business for doing that. If there's no other discussion, I'd like to make a motion that we can pass it with the cemetery, but the crematory not be done until it goes to a town meeting vote.
This is a
With
town
more
meeting.
information.
Okay. So what is your proposed amendment?
My proposed amendment is that we vote on, we can have a cemetery and a place to spread ashes, but before a pet crematory is built, that we have to vote on it at town meeting and have public meetings before then, so everybody is very well informed.
Okay, so,
And neighbors are let known about it.
so are you seeking to make an amendment to delete so much of the article as deals with a pet crematory at this time?
Yes, get rid of the pet crematory. We need to go back for town meeting vote before we do a crematory
Okay,
with more information
all right. Well,
and public hearings.
I require a motion to amend to be in writing. It sounds like you want to make a motion to amend. If you want to come forward, I'll help you try and put that together. I assume you don't have a written motion?
I don't have a written motion,
If you want to come up, we'll see if we can assist you with that. Basically, this amendment will be to delete the pet crematory from the motion that's currently before the meeting. So before I get into that, is there a second out there somewhere for this motion? There'll be a second, okay. So let me write something up for you here. What was your last name? Marto, how do you spell it? This is what the meeting's for. Okay, so this is a town meeting, so you can't just delay it to the next town meeting, but you can delete it from this town meeting if the voters go along with it. So here's what I'd like for motion. There already is a motion on the floor to accept and adopt as printed. So your motion to amend read, I move the main motion to be amended to read as follows. That the article be accepted and adopted as printed in the warrant, except that the development of a pet crematory be deleted. All right? So I'm going to ask you whether that's your motion. Okay, Ms. Martell, if you would just want to go to that microphone so I can make this official. Ms. Martell is seeking to make an amendment to the main motion. We amend motions, not articles. And so the motion currently before the meeting is that the article be accepted and adopted as printed in the warrant. Her proposed motion to amend reads as follows. I move the main motion be amended to read as follows, that the article be accepted and adopted as printed in the warrant, except that the development of a pet crematory be deleted. And do I have an official second on that now? I know that I do. I see one in the back. Okay. So the motion before the meeting now is this motion to amend. Is there any further debate on the motion to amend? Ms. Martell, did you want to say anything further on it at this point, or you've said what you'd want to say? Okay. Mr. Cakounes, you want to address the amendment?
Yes, I do.
Okay, so we're on the amendment only at the moment.
Okay. I rise in opposition to the amendment for a number of reasons. First of all, I don't buy the argument that was made in order to make the amendment, number one. This article, all this article is truly doing here this evening is transferring the care and custody of a parcel of land from the general town use to the cemetery use. And they were good enough to put in this article what they're planning on doing with it. It does not give carte blanche power, if you will, to create a crematorium, which I believe is the young lady's concern. Any development on this property is still going to be required to go through the same public hearings, the same permitting process. So I feel that removing this language in the amendment, just removing the development of a pet crematorium, is not really accomplishing anything. I almost view that part of the article as kind of information. And basically the article and the basis of the article is to transfer the care and custody of the property. So I would ask that we not remove it at this time.
Further debate just on the amendment. Robin Kelly, do you want to address the amendment?
Yes. The pet crematory, if we were to come back to build the pet crematory, we would have to come back to town meeting because we don't have the funds to build it. So we would be coming back either next year or the year after to actually get funding to build it. So this year we were only going to build the pet cemetery. I just want to make everyone aware of that. Thank you.
Any further debate on the amendment, which is simply to delete the crematory, pet crematory, from this article? Yes, ma'am. In the middle? Yes.
Oh, I'm against the whole thing.
Okay, well,
against
right
the
now we're just on the
amendments.
amendment. Do you want to speak to the amendment? Do you want to speak to the amendment?
No, I'm not speaking to
Okay.
the amendment.
Anyone else on the amendment? Yes, over here.
Sally Mahoney, Birch Drive. I would be against the amendment because I am a veterinarian in our town, and I know that a lot of the people whose animals have died, in my estimation, about 90% get cremated, and right now they either go to an off-Cape facility or, in my particular practice, I use the Animal Rescue League of Brewster, and that's it. That's all we have. They do a great job, but I think if the town was allowed to have its own, it would be something run by the town for local people, and I think it would make a lot of sense.
Any further debate on the amendment?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Jerry Beltis, East Harwich. There is a crematory in Chatham run by the Eastham Veterinary Association. They don't advertise it very much, but it's there. And if somebody wanted to go someplace on Cape Cod, all they have to do is go down to Eastham and then visit the place in Chatham.
Any further debate on the amendment? Looks like you're ready to vote on the amendment. Again, we have a main motion that the article be accepted and adopted as printed. The amendment would accept the article as printed, except that it would delete the phrase, "the development of a pet crematory." All those in favor of the amendment as read so signify by saying aye. And those opposed by saying no. The amendment does not carry, so we're back on the main motion that the article be accepted and adopted as printed. Further debate on the article itself? Yes, Joan.
I think this lady was ahead of me.
Oh, okay.
Oh, all right. I've owned several pets over the years. They are cremated. I do have stones in my yard. That is what it is. I know a lot of other friends of mine that do the same thing. I don't see the need to give 2.5 acres of land to a pet cemetery. No other towns have a pet cemetery. No other towns control a cemetery of this kind. And we've existed since we were doing the history of Harwich here, since 1880, and we haven't required one, and we haven't needed one. So I don't see the need for this by our residents. I think everyone's gotten along fine, the crematorians. Most vets do that on site, usually, and if not, they are shipped away. There is a cemetery in Plymouth that I believe the Cemetery Commission had visited. It is privately owned and has been run by a family for 33 years, at which point they sell gravestones, they have a crematorium, they sell urns, they've made quite a big business about it. And I know that the Cemetery Commission did bring the money value up to how many people pay for pet products over the years. So I got the impression from their presentation that they were going to view this as a money-making operation. I don't know how far it was going to go with the marketing. Are you going to sell stones? Are we doing the engraving? Who's paying for the plants? You know, the care of everything here. So I'm against the whole thing. I don't see it as needed. Thank you.
Further debate. Joan.
Joan McCarty in Harwich Port. I want to add my vote to that. The town doesn't belong in pet cemeteries. We have enough trouble struggling to keep our head above water to pay for everything that needs to be done in this town. And this seems to be one of those things where we don't have extra money to do it. It's not a hobby for the town. Thank you.
Ms. Kelly,
Okay.
from the Cemetery Commission.
Thank you. The reason the pet cemetery came about is there is a bill on the Massachusetts legislature right now where people brought it before them that they wanted their pets buried in their cemetery lots in their towns. So that is currently up at the State House right now. If that gets passed, our rules and regulations for the cemeteries in Harwich are for human remains only. We have sold deeds to people, and that's their rights. And I think that people will be upset if we are forced to bury pets next to a World War II vet. Some people might not be offended, but some people will. So I came up with this idea for the pet cemetery. This land had been taken, and it's only for municipal use. It's going to cost us minimal money if we transfer the land to us. The DPW is going to clear the land. The tech school has said that they would design the scattering gardens there. I would pay for the plant material. I don't know if everyone knows this, but the town already, the cemetery department, we maintain now almost 100 acres of cemetery space. This is going to add 2 more acres to that. I don't see how it's going to really affect the cemetery department in any shape or form by just taking on 2 more acres. And could we show the slide of what this is going to look like? It's going to be a park with a gazebo, and I think that, there it is. Okay, so it's just going to have a little gazebo in the middle. It's all going to have flat memorials. There's going to be ground burials, and there's going to be cremation gardens. It is not going to have any upright monuments. People are going to be able to walk their pets in there. Currently, you cannot walk your pets in our cemeteries. It's against our rules and regulations. You will be able to walk your pets in here, and I just think it's going to be a really nice addition to the town. I have contacted all the veterinarians in the area, and they all want to put brochures in their veterinarian offices for this cemetery, and they think it's wonderful, and I am shocked that so many people are against it.
Further debate on the main motion to accept and adopt as printed. Mr. Cakounes.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I'm going to rise just to give a little bit of history on this piece of land. I want to say plus or minus about 10 years ago, the Board of Selectmen and the Finance Committee came in front of us, town meeting members, town meeting goers, and asked us to sell this piece of land, and what they were going to do is they were going to buy a couple of dump trucks with it. And I argued then, 10 years ago, that I did not want to see this piece of land sold, and that we would have, in the future, and there's no telling what the future is going to bring, but we will have use for this as a town. Well, subsequently, after that first town meeting, 4 more followed, where our Selectmen and Finance Committee suggested that we sell this land, and that we use the funds to purchase something. And my argument every time at the mic was that you cannot replace land, and to sell land and to buy something that has a life on it, like a dump truck, for instance, was a bad move. And I think even one time I stood at this very mic and said something like, well, the town may want to build a rocket launching thing there 20 years from now. I don't know. This is industrial zone land. Something might come up that we can use this for. As I drive down Queen Anne Road, there are only 4 now parcels that are treed and left there. The rest of them have been cleared to the lot lines. And the town is very fortunate to own those 4. This is one of them. I see this as an excellent use for this. Number one, I think it's going to enhance, as we drive down Queen Anne Road, Because if we were to sell this or clear it from curb to curb and cut every tree down on it, it's going to have a metal building put on it, and it's going to look like every other industrial lot on Queen Anne Road. I would rather drive by that than seeing another industrial building with dump trucks out there, number one. Number two, I'm not going to balk at the revenue that this is going to bring in, because quite frankly, I believe it will. I have done a little bit of research, and I have seen that the other people that are running these and the other communities that are running them, they are not only self-sufficient, but they are returning revenue to the town. And I don't think it's a bad thing for the town to provide that service to people who want the service. I mean, that's what a town is supposed to do. We're supposed to pay taxes and provide services to our residents. And many of our residents, I think in the future, will be needing this service. And I give kudos to the Cemetery Commission for taking it on. Just please remember, though, and I can't state it enough, what you're voting on here right now, tonight, in front of you, is to transfer this piece of land, not the ownership, but the dedication and use of this land from general use to the cemetery. All the other stuff that's going to be done there is going to have to go through the same type of public hearings, no matter what's going to be built there. All we're doing is saying, you know what, this looks like a good idea, let's move forward. So please support it.
Further debate? Yes, in the middle.
Mary Romaine, East Harwich. I just have a quick question for the Cemetery Committee. I thought I read recently in the Cape Cod Times that we were running low on space for cremated remains.
We are definitely not running low.
Cool, cool. I'm out of here.
For human remains?
Yeah.
No.
No.
I have done 4
Ms. Kelly.
Yes, sorry. I've done 4 expansion projects in this town. We actually now sell to not only Harwich residents, but we sell to our surrounding towns because they have run out of space, and
you haven't.
Yeah,
Thank you.
We're sitting pretty good.
Thank you.
Mrs. Corbett,
I'd like to call the question.
is there a second? Okay, a motion's been made to move the question, which means to terminate debate. It's a non-debatable motion. Requires a 3/4 majority to pass. All those in favor of terminating debate on the motion under Article 57, so signify by saying aye. Aye. And those opposed by saying no. It's a unanimous vote, and I so declare it, so it passes. And we'll now go to a vote on the motion under Article 57. It's to accept and adopt the article as printed in the warrant. Since this is transferring the jurisdiction and control of this property that's currently held for general municipal purposes by the Board of Selectmen to the Cemetery Commission, the state statutes require a 2/3 majority to pass. All those in favor of the motion as read, so signify by saying aye. Aye. And those opposed by saying no. I think I'm going to have to take a standing count on this one to determine the 2/3. If any of the tellers that were here last evening are still here, if they'd come forward. Mr. Gabriel, Mr. Robinson, Mr. Thompson. I don't see Mr. Brophy. Tom Evans, are you still? If you feel uncomfortable, you could. Yeah, no, you're sworn in. We got to swear Mr. Evans in. I do solemnly swear and affirm that I will faithfully and impartially discharge and perform all the duties incumbent on me as a town clerk. So, let's figure this out. Now I've got an easy section. This table here, and the 2 bridges there. Tom, you take the floor on this side. Okay, all the way back. Harold, the floor on this side, all the way back. Right. Mr. Robinson, we just got the bridges section back there on the right. Okay. Okay, so we're going to take a standing count. We're on Article 57. When we take the standing count, you have to hold up your voter card, which tonight is a purple card. You've got to have a purple card in order to be counted. So all those in favor of the motion, which is to accept and adopt this Article 57 as printed, please rise and be counted. Mr. Robinson. 13. Yeah, I think he picked them up. Did anyone do the Finance Committee? He did. Okay. Mr. Gabriel. 44. Mr. Evans. 32. And where's Mr. Thompson?
Right here. 15.
15. All those in opposition to the motion, please rise and be counted. Mr. Evans. 13. Mr. Thompson.
9.
9. Mr. Robinson. 1. And Mr. Gabriel. 15. $27? No. No, it's not 27. 104. So those in favor of the motion, 104. Those in opposition, 38. The motion carries. Article 58. See if the town will vote to authorize revolving funds for certain town departments under Mass General Law, Chapter 44, Section 53E, for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2016, and act fully thereon. Mr. DeCosta.
I move that this article be accepted and adopted as printed in the warrant.
It's been moved and seconded that Article 58 be accepted and adopted as printed in the warrant. Is there any debate? Hearing none, I'll put it to a vote. All those in favor of the motion as read so signify by saying aye. And those opposed by saying no. It is a vote. Article 59.
Bye, Carl.
See if the town will vote to establish a revolving fund effective FY 2017 under Mass General Laws, Chapter 44, Section 53E and a half, for the purpose of upholding the interests of the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and the Harwich Wetlands Protection Act bylaw, such as for consultants and wetland and buffer zone management and restoration projects, with monies generated by the town portion of the Notice of Intent filing fees, credited to the revolving fund, expenditures approved by the Conservation Administrator and the Conservation Commission in an amount not to exceed $6,000. Mr. DeCosta.
I move that this article be accepted and adopted as printed in the warrant.
It's been moved and seconded under Article 59 that it be accepted and adopted as printed in the warrant. Is there any debate? Hearing none, I'll put the matter to a vote. All those in favor of the motion as read so signify by saying aye. And those opposed by saying no. It's a unanimous vote, and I so declare it. Article 60. See if the town will vote to raise and appropriate or transfer from surplus revenue or available funds a sufficient sum of money to be added to the stabilization fund and to act fully thereon. Mr. DeCosta.
I move that this article be accepted and adopted as printed in the warrant and that $1,728,500 be transferred from free cash for this purpose.
The motion under Article 60 is accept and adopt as printed in the warrant. The figure is $1,728,500 be transferred from free cash into the stabilization fund. Any debate? Looks like you're ready for a vote. All those in favor of the motion as read so signify by saying aye. And those opposed by saying no. It's a unanimous vote, and I so declare it. It needed a 2/3 majority. OPEB Trust Fund, Article 61, see if the town will vote to transfer the balance of the funds in the Multi-Use Stabilization Fund into other post-employment benefits trust fund and to act fully thereon. Do I have positive motion on this article? Hearing none, Mr. DeCosta.
I move that this article be indefinitely postponed.
Motion under Article 61 is indefinite postponement. Is there any debate? Mr. Cakounes.
Am I to believe that because we increased the money going into the reserve account, the one with stabilization fund, that we are going to at some point take the 300 out of that stabilization fund and put it into this trust at some point?
Mr. DeCosta?
Yes, Al, that's correct. We had to make this change because the original trust doesn't exist anymore, so we just found this out, so we had to do something different with that 300,000. At a future meeting, we'll put that into the proper spot, but right now, we can't do it because it would be outside of the scope of the existing article.
Okay, thank you. And just again, if I may.
Yes, Mr. Cakounes.
Thank you. I know I asked last night, but I just want to clarify. You said we had a $600,000 balance in our OBED trust account. That obviously doesn't include anything that we did this year then. Does that include the $100,000 that we moved in last night too?
Yes, it does.
Yes, okay, thank you.
You mean under the budget article, Leo?
The budget article,
Yes,
sir.
okay. Further debate. Mr. Gunderson?
Just a question. Can you give me an estimate, somebody up there, what the current unfunded liability is for the OPEB? Just an estimate.
Mr. DeCosta, an estimate.
Approximately $23 million.
Further debate? Looks like you're ready for a vote. The motion under Article 61 is to indefinitely postpone. All those in favor of indefinite postponement will signify by saying aye. Aye. And those opposed by saying no. The article is indefinitely postponed. Article 62, see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate a transfer from available funds a sufficient sum of money to pay unpaid bills of prior years as provided for in Mass General Laws, Chapter 44, Section 64, and to act fully thereon. Mr. DeCosta.
I move that this article be accepted and adopted, and that $25,000 be transferred from free cash for this purpose of funding a retired firefighter medical bills under Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 40, Section 100B.
Okay, the motion under Article 62 is accept and adopt. The sum is $25,000. It's proposed to be transferred from free cash for the purpose of funding a retired firefighter medical bills under Mass General Laws, Chapter 40, Section 100B. Any debate? Hearing none, I'll put the matter to a vote. This is a motion to pay unpaid bills that requires a 4/5 majority to pass. All those in favor of the motion as read so signify by saying aye. Aye. And those opposed by saying no. It's a unanimous vote, and I so declare it. Article 63, see if the town will vote to authorize its treasurer to enter into a compensating balance agreement or agreements with banking institutions for fiscal year 2017 pursuant to Chapter 44, Section 53F of the general laws and act fully thereon. Mr. DeCosta.
I move that this article be accepted and adopted.
Second. It's been moved and seconded that Article 63 be accepted and adopted. Is there any debate? Hearing none, I'll put it to a vote. All those in favor of the motion as read so signify by saying aye. Aye. And those opposed by saying no. It's a unanimous vote, and I so declare it. Article 64, see if the town will vote to assume the liability in the manner provided by Section 29 of Chapter 91 of the general laws, as amended by Chapter 516 and 524 of the Acts of 1950, for all damages that may be incurred by work to be performed by the Department of Public Works of Massachusetts for improvement, development, maintenance, and protection of tidal and non-tidal rivers, streams, harbors, tidewaters, foreshore, and shores along a public beach outside of Boston Harbor, including the Merrimack and Connecticut rivers, in accordance with Section 11 of Chapter 91 of the general laws, and to authorize the Selectmen to execute and deliver a bond of indemnity to the Commonwealth. Mr. DeCosta.
I move that this article be accepted and adopted.
Second. It's been moved and seconded that Article 64 be accepted and adopted. Is there any debate? Hearing none, I'll put the matter to a vote. All those in favor of the motion as read so signify by saying aye. Aye. And those opposed by saying no. Motion carries. Before I get to Article 65, I've got one appointment matter. At this time, the moderator appoints Robert J. Furtado to the Cape Cod Regional Technical High School District Committee to a new 3-year term expiring on June 30th, 2019. Article 65, herring fisheries. To see what action the town will take in regard to the herring fisheries and to act fully thereon. Mr. DeCosta.
I move that this article be accepted and adopted.
It's been moved and seconded that Article 65 be accepted and adopted. Is there any debate? Yes, Mr. Houston.
I just thought I'd report to the town meeting that once again we have over 20 students from Monomoy Regional High School as part of the volunteer herring census group, which also includes some adult volunteers who are sitting here tonight working with the Conservation Trust and the Natural Resources Department. So the fish are coming through.
Great. Thank you for that report, Mr. Houston. I don't see Marge Marion here tonight. Marge usually weighs in and gives us the health of the heron as well. She lives on the river, and I'm sure she may be watching. So, Marge, we're still thinking of you on Article 65. Okay, any other debate on the motion? It's accept and adopt. All those in favor of the motion as read so signify by saying aye. Aye. And those opposed by saying no. The article carries. I'll now entertain a motion to adjourn the annual town meeting.
I move that we adjourn the annual town meeting.
All those in favor of adjournment so signify by saying aye. Aye. And those opposed by saying no. Annual town meeting is adjourned. Let's see, we've got 5 minutes before I'm legally able to open the special town meeting. Please don't leave. We need every one of you. It won't be a long meeting. I know that the Friends of South Harwich Meeting House had some coffee out there. The condition is if you go out to get one, you have to bring it back in here. So we'll see in about 4 minutes now. So according to the moderator's watch, it's 8 o'clock. And so I'm going to declare a quorum present for the special town meeting and call it to order. If you please come in and take your seats. We're going to get started. You need the same voter card for this one, the purple card that you had for the annual town meeting. So anyone out in that lobby, anyone getting coffee or something, please come in now. We've got 4 articles. Before I get started with Article 1 and the special, I've got to recognize the town clerk, Anita Doucette, to read the return of the warrant. Anita?
Commonwealth of Massachusetts, Town of Harwich, Special Town Meeting, May 3rd, 2016, Barnstable County. To either of the constables of the Town of Harwich and said county, greetings. In the name of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, you are hereby directed to notify and warn the inhabitants of said town qualified to vote in elections and town affairs to meet in the Community Center Gymnasium, 100 Oak Street, in said town on Tuesday, May 3rd, 2016, at 8 p.m., then and there to act on the following articles. Hereof fail not to make return of the warrant with your doings thereon at the time and the place of said meeting given under our hands this 28th day of March 2016. Signed Peter S. Hughes, Linda A. Cebula, Janelle M. Brown, Michael D. McCaskill, Board of Selectmen. A true copy attest. Signed David A. Robinson, Constable. April 12th, 2016. By virtue of this warrant, I have this day notified and warned the inhabitants of the town of Harwich qualified to vote in elections and town affairs to meet in the Community Center, 100 Oak Street, in said town on Tuesday, the 3rd of May, 2016, at the time and the place for the purpose herein, named by posting up attested copies thereon in the 4 post office buildings and in the Community Center in the town of Harwich, which covers all 4 precincts, at least 14 days before the time of said meeting as within directed, and causing an attested copy thereof to be published in Cape Cod Chronicle, published in Barnstable County, and having its circulation in the town of Harwich. Signed, David A. Robinson, Constable.
Thank you, Mrs. Doucette. Okay, so we're now in the special town meeting, Article 1. See if the town will vote to transfer from available funds a sufficient sum of money to fund fiscal year 2016 snow and ice deficit account and act fully thereon. Mr. DeCosta.
I move that this article be accepted and adopted and the $250,000 be transferred from free cash for this purpose.
So the motion under Article 1 is accept and adopt. The sum is $250,000. It's proposed to be transferred from free cash for this purpose. Is there any debate? Hearing none, I'll put the matter to a vote. All those in favor of the motion as read so signify by saying aye. Aye. And those opposed by saying no. It's a unanimous vote, and I so declare it. Articles 2 and 3 are brought forward by your Community Preservation Committee. And so again, as we did at the annual town meeting, by statute, the Community Preservation Committee presents its report to town meeting and its recommendations on the articles. And I think the chair, Bob McCready, is ready to do that. Bob?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. At the May 2011 special town meeting, an article was passed with the intent being to have funds available for third-party expenses associated with clearing up issues that existed with problem properties, such as owners unknown and title problems. The impetus for this came from people examining town records for properties that, if cleared, might be acquired for affordable housing or other CPC-appropriate purposes. This article has sat untouched, it's $50,000, since then, as the wording is such that it was found to be unworkable by a variety of people, including town council. These 2 articles, numbers 2 and 3 in the special town meeting warrant, are intended to first rescind the original article, and then appropriate the same funds to be administered within CPC admin with what is expected to be a more viable path to fulfill the intent. Community Preservation Committee voted in March 7-0 to support both of these articles. We hope that you'll support these articles. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. McCready, and that report has been entered in the records of the town clerk. Article 2, see if the town will vote to rescind actions taken under Article 9 of the May 2011 special town meeting in the amount of $50,000 and return such sums of funds appropriated in said article to the Harwich Community Preservation Act Fund undesignated fund balance and to act fully thereon. Mr. DeCosta.
I move that this article be accepted and adopted as printed in the warrant, and that $50,000 be transferred from Article 9 of the May 2011 special town meeting to the Harwich Community Preservation Act Fund, undesignated fund balance.
Motion under Article 2 is accept and adopt as printed in the warrant, and that the $50,000 be transferred from Article 9 of the May 2011 special town meeting to the Harwich Community Preservation Act Fund, undesignated fund balance. Is there any debate? Looks like you're ready to vote. All those in favor of the motion as read, so signify by saying aye. And those opposed by saying no. It's a unanimous vote, and I so declare it. Article 3, also a CPC article, but you've just heard the report from Chairman McCready that they're recommending favorably on this one. To see if the town will vote to appropriate from Community Preservation Fund undesignated reserve $50,000 for administrative costs of the Community Preservation Committee to be used for professional legal services related to the potential acquisition of specific properties that are in tax title or owners unknown, and or other related disputes which would qualify for CPA funding, and that the Community Preservation Committee has made a finding that the specific properties qualify for a CPA purpose, and to act fully thereon. Mr. DeCosta.
I move that this article be accepted and adopted as printed in the warrant to appropriate from Community Preservation Fund undesignated reserve $50,000 for administrative costs of the Community Preservation Committee to be used for professional legal services related to the potential acquisition of specific properties that are in tax title or owners unknown.
I hear a second? Okay, motion under Article 3. It's been moved and seconded that the article be accepted and adopted as printed to appropriate from Community Preservation Fund undesignated reserve $50,000 for administrative costs of the Community Preservation Committee to be used for professional legal services related to potential acquisition of specific properties that are in tax title or owners unknown. Is there any debate? Hearing none, I'm going to put the matter to a vote. All those in favor of the motion as read, so signify by saying aye. And those opposed by saying no. It's a unanimous vote, and I so declare it. Before we get to Article 4, as is my custom, I'd like to thank the members of the Finance Committee for their time and effort. I know they all do it for the pay, but I'd ask you to give them a round of applause, Finance Committee, for this year. Article 4, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate a transfer from available funds a sufficient sum of money to fund shortfalls in various budget transfers and to act fully thereon. Mr. DeCosta.
I move that this article be accepted and adopted to transfer $165,000 from the health insurance account to the DPW solid waste account to offset shortages due to the large volume of municipal solid waste and construction debris.
Motion made and seconded under Article 4 that the article be accepted and adopted, and to transfer $165,000 from the health insurance account to the DPW solid waste account to offset shortages due to large volume of municipal solid waste and construction debris. Is there any debate? Hearing none, I'll put the matter to a vote. All those in favor of the motion as read, so signify by saying aye. And those opposed by saying no. It's a unanimous vote, and I so declare it. I'll now entertain a motion to adjourn the special town meeting.
I move that we adjourn the special town meeting.
All those in favor of adjournment, so signify by saying aye. And those opposed by saying no. Meeting's adjourned. All those in opposition may remain.